Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar from me on the very sunny south coast today. It's just gone 1 o'clock, so I'm just going to give everyone a chance to join. Do feel free to drop into the Q&A box and say hi. I can see there's loads of you joining today. Hi Jane, glad you could make it. Hi Sentil, Banali, Esther. Hi everyone, thanks for dropping in. Lydia from Canada, amazing. Thanks for joining. Okay, I can see lots of you have joined now, so I think we'll make a start. So hi everyone, welcome to our webinar, Introduction to Accessible PDFs. I'm Annie Mannion and I'm Digital Marketing Manager at AbilityNet, and I'll be running you through today's session. So just to go through a few bits of housekeeping, we have live captions provided by Tara at myClearText. You can turn on the captions using the CC option on the control panel, and additional captions are available via streamtext.net/player?event=AbilityNet. And you can download the slides if you wish and follow along on our website, which is abilitynet.org.uk/intro PDF webinar. And if you have any technical issues or you need to leave early, don't worry, you'll receive an email within the next week sharing the recording, the transcript and the slides. And depending on how you joined the webinar, I can see many of you have found the Q&A window. So if you want to ask the panel any questions, do drop those in the Q&A area and we'll cover as many as we can at the end of the session. And then just finally, we also have a feedback survey that you'll be directed to at the end. So please do complete that if you're able to. So for those of you who aren't yet familiar with AbilityNet, we're now more than 25 years old and we support older people and disabled people to use technology to achieve their goals at home, at work and in education. And we do this by providing specialist advice, accessibility testing and training, and also free information like this webinar. So today, discussing accessible PDFs, we're joined by James Baverstock, who is Principal Accessibility Consultant at AbilityNet. And we hope by the end of today, you'll have learned from James key ways to create PDFs from scratch and also how to adapt and tag existing PDFs to make them more accessible. So I'm just going to start with a poll to find out about a bit more about you all here today. So I'm just going to launch the poll now. So can you tell us, how confident are you that your organisation's PDFs are as accessible as they can be? Are you very confident, confident, not confident, not at all confident, or is it not applicable to you? So depending on how you've joined the webinar, you may find you can't see the poll, but you can respond in the Q&A panel. So I'm just going to leave it a few more moments for anybody who'd like to participate to log their answer. Okay, a few more moments. And I'm going to end the poll now and read out the results. So the largest amount of responses is 51% are not confident. Then we have 25% not at all confident, 20% are confident, 4% not applicable, and 1% are very confident. So I'm just going to stop sharing the poll now. And thank you all for your responses. And yeah, we have some great advice from James now, who will impart his wisdom and hopefully boost your confidence. So over to you, James.
Thanks very much, Annie. So I'll just share my screen. In the next 25 minutes or so, I'll be giving a whistle-stop tour of the basics of PDF accessibility, discussing what issues there are with making PDFs accessible, what we should expect to find in an accessible PDF, demoing some tools we can use for initial accessibility checking, and giving an overview of how you can use Acrobat Pro for potentially adding and editing accessibility tags within your documents. I'll just emphasize before we begin that this is an abridged version of our full 2-hour PDF accessibility training, and there are some areas that I won't be discussing in detail today, but we will provide details at the end of further training that we can provide, as well as recommended third-party sources where you can continue to learn about PDF accessibility if this short session gives you an appetite to learn more. So to kick off in terms of introducing PDF accessibility, it may be useful to think a little about what PDF actually is. So PDF stands for Portable Document Format, and it's a file format that was designed to present and exchange documents independent of software, hardware, or operating system. So the idea is that you can save a document as PDF, and then it will look exactly the same regardless of what platform someone uses to open it on. And the origins of PDF are therefore very much in a print mindset. We have a picture here of a compositor setting print for a print publication, and PDFs were intended to provide that print level of control so your audience would see your work exactly as you intended them to. But from an accessibility point of view, there may be downsides to this, as users may not be able to adjust or adapt PDFs to their own reading preferences if they want to change the font size, the color, the line and letter spacing, and so on, as easily as they can with other formats like HTML web pages or Office documents. And another major feature of PDFs, and a big reason for their popularity online, is that they can be created very quickly from popular authoring programs like Word, literally just at the press of a button potentially. But historically, again, this ease of publication has been problematic from an accessibility perspective, as there has tended to be less control on websites for publishing PDFs than publishing web pages, and maybe less consideration for accessibility. So a lot of sites have managed to amass a very large number of inaccessible PDFs over the years that by their nature need to be remediated on a one-by-one basis, which can present a potentially massive task. And these are not the only potential issues for accessibility that PDFs have. Making PDFs accessible for users with disabilities can be a lot of work, especially for more complex PDFs and where you haven't taken care about accessibility in the original source application like Word or InDesign. And because it's a lot of work, many organizations don't bother with it. Even in the public sector now in the UK, where the public sector body's accessibility regulations specifically require newly published PDFs to be accessible, the Government Digital Service in their last monitoring report for the regulations last December said they normally find issues with any PDFs they look at as part of the monitoring, even though the monitoring is limited to a very simple technical checks on the PDF, like having a title and the language correctly specified. But they're still finding PDFs checked are coming up short. It's also generally easier to make HTML web pages accessible, fully accessible than PDF documents. HTML documents can be more easily customized to suit a user's reading preferences potentially, if users want to change the formatting of text. And PDFs also don't potentially have great usability on mobile. The screen readers on mobile devices, VoiceOver on iOS and TalkBack on Android only have partial support for PDF, and they can cause issues for users with low vision. The situation on mobile has got a bit better in recent years with the introduction of Adobe's liquid mode option on mobile, but this isn't perfect and it doesn't work for all PDFs. There are also problems for users with low vision on desktop, as the desktop reflow mode doesn't always work well. But even desktop browsers lack full support for screen reader accessibility. So PDF forms, for example, really need to be used with Acrobat Reader rather than a browser for screen reader compatibility. But this is something that a lot of screen reader users may not necessarily realize. And finally, you do need paid for tools to make PDFs more accessible. At the least, you need a copy of Acrobat Pro, and you need the professional version rather than the standard version for the accessibility checking and remediation features. And there's a whole ecosystem of additional tooling solutions for PDF remediation that you can use as well as Acrobat, but a lot of it has costly subscriptions. So we always say that with all these issues in mind, it's always good to consider if you're going to use a PDF to publish something, it's always good to consider, is it really necessary to publish this as a PDF? Or could you just publish this as a web page instead? So it's always worth considering, is this something that would be better as a web page? And then when using PDF, it's very important to ensure that the source document is as accessible as possible before you convert it to PDF. So if you're creating your documents initially in Word or InDesign, it's good to use all of the guidance for those particular applications to make sure that you're creating your file as accessibly as possible before you convert to PDF. And then you'll have as little as possible to have to do within Acrobat, because as we'll see today, dealing with PDF accessibility in Acrobat can be a fiddly and complex process. So you want to do as little as possible in Acrobat and try to build in as much accessibility as possible into your source file. This is also advantageous because it means that if you then have edits to the file later on, it's much easier to make them and save to PDF without needing to do lots of accessibility changes again in the finalized PDF document. So for example, if you're creating Word documents, you want to think about accessibility guidelines for Word, like making sure you're using styles for elements such as headings and lists, adding alternative text for your informative images, creating tables in Word with table headers, and considering use of color and color contrast, and then saving as a tagged PDF. And we'll talk more about tags and the necessity of them as we go through today. And there's a link on the slide there to the Microsoft site where there's resources on considerations for creating accessible Office documents. And if you're creating your PDF documents in InDesign, there's similar considerations, there's similar things you can do to make sure your InDesign files are accessible in terms of having your headings and your alt text and so on. So it's worth taking those considerations in your source files before you get to the PDF stage. But if we are committed to using PDF though, we can think about what the main characteristics are that we need to aim for if we want to make our PDFs as accessible as possible. First and foremost, we need searchable, machine-readable text in our PDF document. So we don't want our PDF just to be a scan or a picture of text. And this happens quite frequently with PDFs, that people just scan in a document and then publish it as a PDF. And potentially this is just going to be announced as a blank document if it's opened by a screen reader user, because there's no machine readable text for a screen reader to read out. So it's important that if you have PDFs that originate in scans, that you use optical character recognition to create real machine readable text. And even using the smaller use of images of text in your documents can be problematic. For example, if you paste in an image of text instead of having actual text, that can be problematic for users with low vision who need to magnify your document, because potentially the text will pixelate, and as well as being problematic for blind users, maybe using screen readers, it can also cause problems for users with conditions like dyslexia, who may use text-to-speech software to read out the document. And to do that, they need to select text to have the software announce it for them. And if you have text that is an image, then it can't be selected. So it's really fundamentally critical that you have searchable machine-readable text. You also want accessible PDFs to have good navigational aids. So heading structure is particularly valuable for screen reader users, as they can pull up a list of headings in a document in their screen reader and quickly get to the part of the document that interests them. In longer documents, it's good to have bookmarks and a table of contents to help people get around the document. And it's also good to have good metadata in your documents, particularly an informative title. And the title is what will be announced when a document is first opened in a screen reader, potentially. And having the document language correctly specified in your document properties is very important, because that means that a screen reader will be able to read out your document correctly with the correct language pack, and it'll have the correct pronunciations. Really critically for accessibility in PDF, we need our documents to have a programmatic document structure, or tags. And tags work like invisible labels in our PDFs and they inform assistive technology about the semantics of the document. So they tell a screen reader what part of the document are headings, what part of a document are lists and tables and so on. So this is really vital if people are accessing your documents with the screen reader or a braille display. And we'll look a little bit later on at how you can see this tag structure within Acrobat Pro and potentially interact with it. A logical reading order is also very important for assistive technology like screen readers. And this order in which the document is read out is controlled by the order of the tags in the PDF document. And again, we'll have a quick look at this a bit later on in a bit more detail. We also want to provide alternative text for non-text elements, like charts and graphs potentially, and other informative images, so that there's something to be announced by a screen reader for users who can't see your document. If you have decorative images, you might want to specifically say that they are decorative so that the screen reader won't read them out. We can also think about tables, which need to be appropriately formatted. The structure of tables can be very evident visually, but again, you need to tag your tables correctly for screen readers so that the relationship between the table headers and the cells is evident for someone who can't see that table. We also need to be careful with using complex tables in our documents, as for example, Word doesn't support screen reader accessibility for merged cells in tables or having multiple header rows or multiple header columns. Although complex tables can be made accessible in PDFs for screen readers in Acrobat, which is something we cover in detail in our full PDF accessibility training, this can be very time consuming. And as a general rule, it's a good idea to try to simplify or split up complex tables in documents to make them easier to deal with from a remediation perspective, but also it also makes them easier to read and understand for everyone. And then finally, it's important to think about good color contrast for our text and our informative images as well. And that's another thing I'll revisit in a few minutes. So that is a whole list of things that we don't want to do in our PDFs for accessibility. So if we move on to think about how we can begin to check our PDFs for all these accessibility problems, as a first thing that we may do is that we might use automated checkers to run checks on our document and tell us about problems that the checkers can find. So just before I show a couple of checkers here, an important caveat for automated accessibility checking is that it's not going to be able to pick up all issues. So for example, an automated accessibility checker may be able to check that your images do not have alternate text, but they can't necessarily check that the alternate text which is added for those images actually makes any sense or whether it's any good. So there's things which automated checkers potentially can't check. Reading order is another one, which is a big issue in PDFs, which an automated checker is not going to be able to check. But automated checkers are still very useful. They can do a lot of checking of structural issues in PDFs that would be very difficult to check manually. And they provide links to help on issues, to provide more information on what's wrong. So using automated checkers can be a useful part of a learning process when you first start to learn about accessible PDF. So I'm just going to show first here, I'm going to show the built-in accessibility checker within Acrobat Pro, which we recommend should always be used for a primary check on a PDF. So I'm just going to show my Acrobat Pro interface here. So I've got a PDF open. It's a reasonably accessible PDF that's been created from a Word document. If I want to open up the accessibility checker, I can open up the menu and then I want to go to All Tools and Prepare for Accessibility to open up the accessibility tools. And then I want to go to the Check for Accessibility option to run the accessibility checker. I'll just leave the default options there and then start checking. And we can see that the results open up on the right-hand side of the screen here. We can see straight away there's certain things that the checker is telling us it can't do that need a manual check. So it's telling us we need to manually check our reading order. We need to manually check color contrast because it doesn't run an automated check for it. It's telling us that our document does not have a title. So title has failed. And that the figures do not have alternate text. It's giving me the option here with the figure, this JAWS logo here. So it's giving me the option if I click on this, and also for the title, if I right click on this, I can fix it. So here for the title, I could just go in and fix that title directly from the checker. It's also offering the ability to explain, which goes through to the Adobe site and explains more about what the problem is. For alt text, if I click fix, it opens up the set alternate text tool, which is also available under add alternate text under the prepare for accessibility tools on the left hand side. And here you can add in alt text. So I could type JAWS logo here for this, or I could tick it as a decorative figure if it was decorative. So the accessibility checker takes me through and it shows me where some of the problems are. It's also saying that there are regularity problems with this table as well, although it's just highlighting the whole table, so this might be a bit difficult to understand just from what the checker is showing here. But these are the basic things which the built-in checker in Acrobat shows. Another really useful checker that we'd recommend using as a complement to the built-in Acrobat checker is called PAC, or PDF accessibility checker. And this is available as a free download for PC. It includes a few more checks that are not available in PAC, including a color contrast test for text, which can be quite useful. And it has a screen reader preview mode, which I think is also a really useful tool to know about if you're testing PDFs. It checks both for the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines and for PDF UA. And PDF UA is an ISO standard based on the principles of WCAG, and it complements the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, but has some differences. But it's very strong on providing a valid tag structure for your PDFs. So checks for it can be useful. I'm just gonna here, if I open up PAC so I can show how this works. So I'm just going to open this up now, and I'll pop this on the screen here. And the way that PAC works is that we can drop in a PDF file here. So I'll drop in the same PDF file I was looking at in the Acrobat Checker a second ago. And we get a similar listing as you'd get within the inbuilt PDF checker. It tries to show where in the document the particular problem is, which is quite useful. And notably, if we go down to the WCAG guidelines, it also provides a contrast check. So I have some text that has insufficient contrast, some light blue text here, and the PAC checker usefully is picking up text contrast errors, which would not be picked up within the Acrobat checker. So it's useful as a supplemental check for that reason. Another feature I'd highlight as being really useful is the screen reader preview option within PAC, which you can get to if you click on this little eye icon. And what this does is it takes your PDF document and it tries to show it to you kind of as a web page, but it highlights what the headings are in the document. It highlights what your alt text is for your images. So if you're testing and you want to test a large PDF or check a large PDF, it can be really useful to have your PDF open on your screen with this alongside it. And then you can go through and check the heading structure very easily. You can proofread all of the alt text in one place in this report. This is also a very straightforward way of testing the basic screen reader reading order, because this is using the tag order of the content, which is the way that it would be displayed for a screen reader. So it's a very kind of low-tech way of very quickly checking if the reading order for screen readers is okay. It can also be helpful for troubleshooting problems with tables as well. This screen reader preview mode is really quite a useful. Well, I definitely find it a very useful tool to use when you're checking PDFs. So it's well worth having a look at PAC as well as the inbuilt Acrobat accessibility checker. And then finally, in terms of tools, we mentioned earlier the importance of color contrast in our documents. And certainly we get a lot of color contrast issues in PDFs that we test. I think a lot of people who create documents are obviously not professional designers. Sometimes color choices are not top of mind within documents. So you tend to get a lot of potential issues. The Web Content Accessibility Guideline says that there should be at least a 4.5 to 1 color contrast between the text and the background for normal size text, and a 3 to 1 contrast for large text. And if you have informative graphics like charts, you want to have at least a 3 to 1 contrast between parts of the graphics. So as we saw, if you run the pack accessibility checker on your PDF, that will run a check on the text against the background if there's machine readable text. If you are preparing your document in Word, you can run the Office accessibility checker, and that will also have a check on your text. It can be useful though to have a way to double check these so that you can be sure that they're right, and you may have text within your document that's within an image. So you might have text that's within a chart, and you may have informative graphics that you need to check as well. So what I've got on the screen here is the color contrast analyzer, and there's a link to this in the slide deck that you'll get when you receive the slides. But this is a free download that you can use. And with this tool, so I'll just open it up here so that you can see how this works. I'll just pop it over the image of it here. Essentially, you can select a foreground color and a background color with the pipette here. And then it will tell you, does this pass for WCAG? So you're usually going to be looking at these AA rules rather than AAA. But here, this blue is clearly failing. I've got a 2.6 to 1 ratio with the background, so it's going to fail. Whether this is regular text or large text, it's going to fail. So this is a good tool to use to be able to do some color contrast checking in addition to the automated tools, which may pick up some issues in terms of text that's text within the documents. So that's covering off some testing tools we can use. And then finally today, to finish off our quick tour of the basics of PDF accessibility, I wanted to show how we can use Acrobat Pro to check the tagging of our documents and to add and edit tags if necessary. Now this can get quite involved, and we offer fuller training if you'd find that helpful. But today I'm just going to give a quick overview of where you can see the tags in Acrobat and how to interact with them to give you a basic understanding of what tagging is. Tags, as I mentioned, work like invisible labels in the document that tell assistive technology what elements of the document are, what parts of the document are headings and paragraphs and so on, so that a screen reader can correctly announce the elements and read them in the correct order. So within Acrobat, you can view an accessibility tags pane, and in the latest Acrobat interface, this is on the right-hand side of the screen. And the order that the tags are on that pane is the reading order for assistive technology, like screen readers, that they will go through the document. So you can test the reading order from the tags tree by arrowing down with a down arrow on the tags tree to see what order the tags are in. And I'll demonstrate this if we go back to our document. So I'm going to close the accessibility checker here. Let's go back to the first page. And then on the right-hand side of the screen, I'm going to open up my accessibility tags panel. And here are my tags in the document. So you can see I've got a document tag that's the container tag for all of my tags. And then I've got an H1 tag here for my main heading, because this is the main heading in the document, a paragraph tag for this paragraph, an H2 tag for the next heading level down, an H3 tag for the next heading level down after that, and so on through the document. So my images are tagged as figures, my table is tagged as a table, with tags for the rows and the table headers and the table cells, and so on. So we've got this tagging structure. In order to test the reading order of the tags, I can just put my cursor on the top element, and I can just press the down arrow key to walk through that tags tree in order, and then this is going to be the order in which that document is going to be announced for a screen reader. So this is one way you could check screen reader reading order. We showed in PAC that you could also use the screen reader preview. You should get the same result in there as quick ways to check reading order. You can also edit tags in Acrobat. A really, really useful command is find tag from selection in the tags menu, which I'll show, which enables you to find where tags actually are on the page. And you can then edit tags directly in the tags pane, potentially by double clicking on it and renaming them. Alternatively, you can right click on tags and choose properties to change the tag type. And I'll just show this quickly as well. So within our tags tree, if I'm interested in knowing how I've tagged up this particular heading, I can select it with my selection tool in the body of the PDF. And then if I go over to the accessibility tags pane here, and I click on options, I can choose find tag from selection. And this will take me to the part of the tags tree where that tag is. So I can see that this is tagged as an H2. If I wanted to change that, I could double click on it. So I could manually change this so it becomes an H3. But manually adding the tags can be a bit dangerous because you can type in anything and it might not be a valid tag. So a potentially safer way to edit tags is to right click, go to properties, and then choose the tag. So I'm going to change this back to a heading level 2, which is what it should be. So you can edit your tags and you can change the type of tags. You can also drag tags around in the tags tree as well, and potentially add other tags in. If we think about adding tags, so ideally you want to have created your PDFs from a Word or an InDesign file with the tags there. So generally, you're not going to want to add your tags manually unless you absolutely have to. But you may have a source document, which you may not have a source document. You may have, and you may have a PDF that doesn't have any tags, or you might have tags that are wrong. So you may need to add tags in. You can add tags. One of the ways of doing it is with the reading order tool. Alternatively, you can use auto tagging, which is a feature which will automatically tag the entire document. But then you need to have a look at the results of that and might need to do some edits. I'll just show you how this works just to give you an idea of that. We go back here. I basically have here an untagged version of the same file. So this file has no tags available. So I've deliberately created this so it has no tagging. If I wanted to add some tagging in, I could go to my Prepare for Accessibility tools and my Reading Order tool. And one way of adding tags is that you can marquee the various elements and then just click on the Reading Order tool to add a tag. So here I'll add a heading 1 for my heading, paragraph for this paragraph, another text paragraph for that paragraph. This would be a heading level 2, and so on. And you can see that the tags pane is going to populate as I do that. This is obviously very time consuming. So if you do have an untagged PDF, usually the best first thing to do is going to be to run the auto tagging feature, which will automatically tag your PDF, making the best guess that Acrobat can make about what the elements should be. Generally, you don't want to run this if you have a PDF that's reasonably tagged already, because it will overwrite any existing tags. But in this case, I'm just going to click automatically tag PDF. It's going to run that for me. It's going to tell me that the figures need alternate text adding. But if I look at the tags tree, I could just see what it managed to do. And we can see straight away that it's added tags, but some of them are not particularly fantastic. So instead of an H1 for the main heading, it's added an H2. So I'd want to go in and edit that make that an H1. Similarly, there are other problems with the tagging if I was to go through the document, including that unfortunately it's decided that this one table that goes across 2 pages, it's interpreted that as 2 tables, so a table and then a secondary table. So this would take quite a lot of remediation in the PDF to deal with. So auto tagging, just to emphasize that it probably is the best first thing to do if you have an untagged document, but the results are not going to be perfect. There may be additional work that you need to do on the PDF following the auto tagging. If we pop back to the slide deck. So that's been a very quick tour of the basics of PDF accessibility. A few points just to summarize. We should always think about, before using PDF, it's always worth thinking, is PDF appropriate? Could you publish as a web page instead? It's good to embed as much accessibility as possible in the source document before you convert to tag PDF. You can use automated checkers to get a first pass on the accessibility of the document, but it's good to build on this with manual checks like color contrast and reading order. And you can use Acrobat Pro to add or edit tags if necessary. And just finally, we've got on the final slide here, when you get the slide deck, there's some links to some resources which I think are particularly useful. So there's a link through to the Adobe site, their PDF accessibility overview and resources. The section 508.gov site has a lot of useful resources, including detailed guides to testing and remediation and some free video tutorials. There's a link there to the pack checker, which I demonstrated, and the tagged PDF site, which is a useful complement to the pack checker that contains videos of how to fix various issues that you find in pack. The PDF accessibility Facebook group, I'd particularly recommend. It's an absolutely fantastic group of its kind, where you can submit questions and you get there's a whole back catalogue of questions that have been answered there, which is very useful. And then finally on there, there's a link to a resource that was just published very recently by Alistair McNaught about PDFs and accessibility, exploring the accessibility challenges. And this discusses the challenges of PDF accessibility, particularly in a higher education context. But it's a very good read, and it's very good on the limitations of PDF accessibility and the difficulties of making PDF fully accessible, and what workarounds and alternatives you can employ. I'll just hand back now, if I can stop sharing.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you so much, James. Yeah, like you mentioned, it's a whistle-stop tour, really valuable one, useful tips that hopefully you can try out with your documents. So yeah, really great advice. And as James mentioned, we've got lots of different types of training available from AbilityNet. So if you're interested in learning more about creating accessible PDFs, some of the training we have a PDF accessibility course coming up on Thursday, the 6th of March, and you can find out more about that at /PDF-accessibility. And it's a more detailed version of James's session today. And there's a special offer for webinar registrants. If you use the code 2025 PDF training 20 for 20% off if you book before 14th of February. And we also have an in-house training option for your team. So in that, you have the opportunity to ask questions and you'll receive advice and tips based on your existing documents and your unique organisation needs. So do look out for an email that you'll receive about how you can make those bookings. And we also have an e-learning course, Creating Accessible PDF Documents, where people can learn at their own pace using step-by-step modules. So yeah, learn how to produce content and adapt PDFs. And there's more information about that at /training on our website. So yeah, please do keep a lookout in your inbox for a follow-up email containing all the information about our various PDF courses. So I can see that you've got tons of questions that have come through for James. So yeah, we'll do our best to answer as many as we can before the end of the session today. So one of the questions that's been asked by a lot of people, is there an alternative for PAC for Macs, James, that you know of?
So not I know of, but PAC is supposed to have been in development for Mac for quite a long time, but it doesn't seem to have materialized as yet, but it has been promised in the past. Um, but it's not available on Mac at the moment, as I understand. So you'd need to run something like a Windows emulator to be able to run it currently.
Okay, thank you. And then there's a question from Hazel. Are there any ideas that you have about how to persuade an organisation to stop using PDFs and put up either the original Word documents or recreate brochures as web pages? Or is there any time when a PDF is necessary rather than a Word document?
So it may be worth thinking about providing more than one format might be a sort of less painful way to kind of break organizations from the habit of putting things in PDF. So if you've got something like a brochure, there may be a use case for having it as a PDF because you want to present it in a certain way, but maybe that content could also be available as a web page, as a website. So maybe providing things in more than one format can be a way to get around it, because you need to provide it accessible. There has to be a format that is accessible, but you can potentially think about it that way. I think.
Okay, thank you. So another question from Gizzy is, in education, I know there's lots of people on the course today from the education sector. We have huge backlogs of historical PDFs, many of which are still used and shared. So is it harder to update and remediate older PDF files than it is for newer ones?
I don't think it's necessary. Well, it's potentially harder if you don't have the source documents anymore. That could make things potentially harder. I think with sort of archive documents, with older documents, it's worth thinking about whether they are actually used. So it's worth trying to assess which older documents people are actually accessing them. So you can form some sort are actually accessing. So you can form some sort of priority list for dealing with things.
Yeah.
Is a good idea. I mean, technically, kind of older PDFs from before 2017 aren't covered. As long as you're not republishing them, then they're not covered under the public sector body's accessibility regulations, for example. So from that point of view, older PDFs, as long as they're kind of archived and you're not changing them, they wouldn't present a problem from that point of view.
Okay. Now I've just got time for a couple more questions that I've noted down that are coming through. Are tags similar to ARIA labels?
Yes, in a way, in that they're whereas ARIA is basically a way of providing extra information for screen readers, and tags are the same sort of thing in that they're providing extra information um, for um, for screen readers. So providing alt text via an image tag is doing the same via a figure tag within a PDF is doing a similar sort of thing as providing an ARIA label for an element within a web page.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Just final question. Sorry that we haven't got time to go through everyone's questions, but this is a question from Jessica. When exporting over from Word, are page numbers, headers, and footers appropriately tagged as such so that screen readers can skip over them, or is that something that you need to do manually?
As long as you're using the built-in header and footer function within Word, then it'll be handled automatically. By default, headers and footers get artifacted in the PDF, which mean that they're not part of the tags tree, they're not announced. But this is the expected behavior, because otherwise when a screen reader user gets to the bottom of the page, it's going to announce the footer and the header before they get to potentially they might be halfway through a sentence. So you don't want those automatically announced. So as long as you use that built-in header and footer functionality within Word, that will go through, be artifacted in the PDF, which is correct. You just need to be careful that you don't put any vital information in that header or footer, because screen readers won't have access to it. So if you have anything vital, you want to also have that on a part of the document that it will be announced, like the title page. And you don't need to necessarily worry about the page numbering, because screen reader users have other ways that they can query the page number. So the fact that that page number is artifacted is fine.
Okay. Thank you so much, James. Yeah, I think it's time to wrap up now, but thank you to you all for joining us, and thank you to Tara with my clear text today, and for my colleague Kelly for helping out in the background. So just a bit more information that might be of interest. As mentioned, we run online training sessions about digital accessibility and inclusion, and you can find out more at /training. Then we also offer accessibility services about accessibility audits and testing, user research, in-house training, as mentioned, accreditation and certification, and consultancy and strategy. And those services are delivered by James and his expert team of colleagues. So yeah, please do get in contact about that if you're interested. And then finally, you can also sign up to our newsletter for the latest advice and news about accessibility. And also you can access free tech help for older people and disabled people via our volunteer network at /tech support. And then our next free webinars you can access via /webinars. So on the 26th of February, we have a session aimed at older people, tips to make your smartphone easier to use. And then on the 18th of March, travel made easy, top apps for seniors on the go. And then we also have registration live for our European Accessibility Act webinar series coming up. So please do look out for that. I know there were a few questions about PDFs and the European Accessibility Act that came through. So we hope to cover those on that session. So thanks again to everyone who's joined us. Please do complete the feedback form that you'll be directed to, and we'll be in touch with you soon. Hope to see you at the next session.